Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s with this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes, 1987 at online booksellers everywhere. A 20-year-old woman wound up losing her life after a trio of teenagers allegedly threw a rock through the windshield of her vehicle. All news footage used in this video is under fair use of United States copyright law of 1976 and is used in conjunction with my commentary.
Our top story tonight, arrests in a case that we have followed closely for the last week. 3 high school students now accused of throwing rocks at cars, injuring drivers, and killing 20-year-old Alexa Bartell. All 3 suspects are 18 years old. Good evening, I'm Michael Spencer.
And I'm Karen Lee. These arrests follow an intense search for whoever threw rocks at least 7 cars. Happened late Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. Most of the cases in Jefferson County. A couple also in Boulder County. 2 other drivers hurt. Connor McHugh has been working on these latest developments for you. And Connor, what have you learned about these teenagers?
Karen, those 3 18-year-olds from Arvada are now being held behind bars without bond here in Jefferson County, accused of causing the death of Alexa Bartell on this stretch of road along Indiana Street. Moving forward, there's still a lot of work to do for investigators, including learning more about their relationship and why this even happened. But those investigators can say this area is much safer tonight. Along this fateful stretch of Indiana Street, daily visits and growing memorials give a small glimpse at a community's heartbreak, a crossroads for pain and healing over the loss of 20-year-old Alexa Bartell.
This case touched a lot of people deeply.
But amidst the mourning, there's now a new glimpse of hope as authorities announced major progress in the case.
The Sheriff's Office is incredibly grateful this morning to report that we have 3 suspects in custody for their involvement in Alexa Bartell's death.
According to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, those suspects are Joseph Koenig, Nicholas Mitch Carroll Chick, and Zachary Quack. They're accused of throwing the rock that led to Alexa Bartell's death, as well as 6 other rock-throwing incidents.
This was a beautiful young woman with her whole life in front of her who was simply driving home, and her life was ended as a result of these acts.
On Wednesday, investigators said cell phone forensic are what broke this case open. Now the questions are why and how.
It's not been easy for us to determine who was in the driver's seat and who was throwing the rocks, but we think they were all involved in this criminal episode.
The 3 18-year-olds will now face murder with extreme indifference, as well as several other charges. Today, family of Koenig did not answer the door, and Carol Chick's family had no comment on his arrest.
We're very solid on the information that we have. The arrests have been made. They will have their day in court tomorrow, and so this process begins.
Now, we've learned through sources that Koenig had come into contact at least 3 times as a juvenile with law enforcement, one of which included throwing rocks, but none of those 3 encounters involved any kind of charges being filed. Tonight, the investigators with the Sheriff's Office tell us all 3 suspects lived in Arvada but went to different high schools. All 3 will be back in court tomorrow. Live in Jefferson County tonight, Connor McHugh covering Colorado First.
All right, Connor, thank you. We also know that the father, one of the suspects, was also arrested. Investigators say that Mark Koenig was taken into custody for obstruction during the arrest of his son.
Now, in this incident which took place in Jefferson County, Colorado, 20-year-old Alexa Bartell lost her life after 3 18-year-olds, Joseph Koenig, Nicholas Mitch Carroll Chick, and Zachary Quack, allegedly threw a rock through the windshield of her vehicle that struck her in the head and wound up leading to her losing her life. Now, according to reports, these 3 friends, Joseph Koenig, Nicholas Mitch Carroll Chick, and Zachary Quack, allegedly planned to meet up over a Snapchat discussion on April 19th, and after they met up, they began driving around town for a while and decided to stop at a Walmart and began picking up landscaping rocks from the edge of the store's parking lot, where a witness says that they saw them loading them into Joseph Koenig's vehicle, and then after loading the rocks into the back of Koenig's vehicle, it is alleged that Koenig was driving as the other individuals began throwing these rocks out of the vehicle at other vehicles that were driving around, and allegedly wound up hitting 5 different vehicles, including Alexa Bartel's. And this rock went through the windshield of Alexa Bartel. And as this rock went through the window, it is alleged that these individuals, Quack decided to take a photo of the damage to her windshield as a memento of the event that they participated in. Now, the police are seeing this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the behavior of Joseph Cohen, Nicholas Mitch, and Carol Chick, and Zachary Quack allegedly participated in, it fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And the behavior here is the kind of deviant behavior that beta males participate in when they are completely detached from reality. Now, many beta males live in a place I call the rose-colored reality, and in that world it looks and feels like the real world, but everything is completely distorted. And because everything is completely distorted, these individuals do not understand the concepts of morals, values, or boundaries, and will go out here and believe it's okay for them to participate in all sorts of violent and deviant behavior and act on their impulses, never thinking about the consequences of their actions. And that's what happened here with these 3 beta males. These 3 beta males decided to participate in this destructive behavior because they wanted to go out here and cause chaos. This is what is allegedly said in the affidavit about the suspect, Joseph Cohen, who says that he likes to frequently participate in destructive behavior, and beta males like to participate in destructive behavior because they like to see other people hurt. And again, that's because they are completely detached from how other people feel. Many beta males have no respect or regard for the feelings of other people. No, they just see them as objects to go out here and inflict pain on in their fantasies. And this is what these 3 individuals look like they were doing when they were going out here picking up those rocks out of the Walmart parking lot. Now, these rocks were just in the parking lot, basically being a display just to be art, but these individuals decided to make that art into a weapon, and they wanted to use this weapon to cause chaos, and again, wanted to cause chaos because these individuals wanted to get pleasure from seeing other people suffer, and that's what these beta males love to do when they sometimes get bored, and in a lot of cases they do this because they feel powerless about the state of their lives. And because they feel powerless about the state of their lives, what they want to do in order to get power is go out here and look to participate in these kinds of displays to make them feel powerful because they feel powerless about the state of their lives. And these males basically, again, feeling powerless and detached as related to the world. Again, they feel powerless about the state of their lives, and this makes them feel completely detached from the world. And because they feel detached and disconnected from the world, what they do believe is that they have a right to go out here and hurt others in order to feel some sort of sensation. This is something I talk about in depth in The Woman Crisis. They feel like the only way they can get a sensation or a rush is to do harm to others. And this is what was done, I believe, with complete malice of forethought as related to this incident, because it took, again, malice of forethought to plan to go get these rocks out of the Walmart parking lot, and it takes a depraved indifference to human life to go and throw these rocks into vehicles, and it takes even more depraved indifference to human life to go out here after throwing these rocks into the windows of these vehicles to go and take a picture of these people who are basically suffering. And in the case of Alexa Bartel, this 20-year-old woman who was just coming home from work, taking a picture of her suffering as a memento. This basically shows so much malice, aforethought, and depraved indifference. The only thing you can charge these three individuals with is first-degree murder, because it was first-degree murder that these three beta males were participating in the real world. But because these individuals wanted to believe they were getting pleasure in their rose-colored reality, they just thought it was entertainment to them. But this was a clear case of first-degree murder, and it's first-degree murder because, again, we have malice, aforethought, we have intent, and depraved indifference. These three beta male monsters look to murder someone because when they took those rocks out of the Walmart parking lot, they turned them into weapons, and they turned them into weapons because they were willfully and intentionally looking to do harm to someone as related to getting pleasure for themselves. And again, this just shows how depraved the beta male is as related to his mindset, and that mindset comes from being raised in a dysfunctional household, whether there be a father in the home or not. Clearly, these boys never learned any sort of values, and now as they have become 18-year-old men, they have gone from being teenagers to becoming men in crisis, and these men in crisis basically threw away their lives, all for a thrill, because now that there is insurmountable evidence that they participated in first-degree murder of the most heinous kind, the only place these three individuals are possibly gonna go with convictions of life in prison is the penitentiary. And as they enter into the penitentiary, they are going to go from being guys just hanging out on the street, participating in a pattern of mischief like throwing rocks at statues, to going into the penitentiary where they're going to have to deal with the structure of the COs and the chaos that will be caused by Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, and Big Dave, Melvin, and Ronnie inside of the penitentiary. And as these 18-year-olds have to spend life in prison with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Ronnie, they are going to be turning out these three stooges and turning those tight ends into wide receivers as they are spit roasted and even double and triple stack spit roasted and traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, Ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light, packets of Taster's Choice, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, marshmallow peeps, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, Chipotle sauce. These guys are going to be traded for all of the items on the menu of the commissary because their crime was so heinous. And as they're in the penitentiary getting their backsides turned out, these guys are going to learn the hard way about participating in their so-called chaos as there's havoc received on them inside of that penitentiary. And these three beta males went from having their freedom to winding up in the penitentiary because these are textbook beta males. And again, beta males, because they live in a rose-colored reality, they take more important intangibles for granted, like their freedom and their health and their safety, and they will toss all of that away because they decide to act on their impulses. And as they act on their impulses, they never really think critically about the consequences of their behavior. And that's basically what happened here with these three stooges, Zachary Quack, Joseph Cohen, and Nicholas Carroll Chick. They were not thinking about the consequences of their actions, but they will have time to think about the consequences of their actions and taking the life of Alexa Bartell, taking the life of a 20-year-old woman who was basically looking to go home from work, but never was able to go home because these three beta males saw putting her life in jeopardy as entertainment and believed that having a memento of a person dying was perfectly fine. Again, this is the type of depraved reasoning that beta males participate in because beta males will go out here and justify the most heinous acts, all because they want to have their feelings And because they want to have their feelings, they don't care about the consequences of somebody else losing their lives. And again, this is the type of sick behavior these males participate in. And the main reason why these males participate in this behavior is due to the way we have been raising boys to become men. And the way we raise boys to become men is making monsters like this that have no regard for the life of another human being. No, it's all about their feelings and all about how they feel. They have no regard for how anybody else feels. No, they don't care about how anybody else feels or about anybody else's right to live. No, it's all about them having their thrill. And this is the type of male that we in America wanted to socially engineer. This kinder, gentler, softer male who was more in touch with his feelings. But what we've created is a monster who has no regard for the feelings of others. And that is the great irony as related to making this male who was supposed to be all about feelings, is that you create a male who has no regard for anybody's feelings at all, because only someone who has no regard for anybody else's feelings will believe that throwing rocks into the vehicles that are driving around them is entertainment, because all that type of feeling, again, that's just sick and depraved, and it takes a completely sick and depraved individual to go out here and participate in this type of violence. I mean, these vehicles are driving at 60 to 65 miles an hour on these roads, and any of those rocks could have done severe damage to other vehicles, and it could have led to a pileup that could have cost more lives. I mean, this is the kind of consequence that these individuals weren't thinking about. No, they weren't thinking about this because it was all about how they felt at the moment, and because they acted on their impulses, they wound up taking the life of a 20-year-old woman, again showing us how sick these individuals are, and they deserve every moment that they spend for the rest of their lives in that penitentiary with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Rodney. They deserve every moment that they spend in that penitentiary if they are convicted, because they deserved it, because again, what they did was just absolutely egregious, absolutely reprehensible, and again just shows how things are just getting worse as this man crisis is going on, because as this man crisis is going on, we are seeing, and not only an increase in frequency of the violence that these beta males are participating in, we're seeing them participate in more and more heinous crimes as related to the spectrum of violent behaviors they would participate in, because this is one of the most extreme and most depraved acts I have ever seen one of these beta males participate in, and again, one of the sickest acts I have seen in my life in over, I believe, 7-8 years of reporting on these kinds of stories. And I've reported on some of the worst types of these stories, like the mass shootings and the other assorted crimes. But this one, it just is one of the most disturbing ones I have ever seen. And again, showing me how much worse the man crisis is getting in this country. And even worse, most people they see these crimes as isolated incidents and not as a part of a larger pattern as related to the way we are raising boys to become men. Because here we have 3 different males from 3 different families, and all 3 are coming together to participate in this type of crime. And again, that shows me that this is all about how we raise boys to become men, and the way we are raising boys to become men are creating these men in crisis, and these men in crisis are wreaking havoc all across the country. And sadly, nobody in America wants to acknowledge the man crisis going on in this country, and nobody wants to acknowledge that this incident is a part of a larger problem with the way we have been parenting children. And we don't want to deal with the way we parent children because we don't want to upset most of America's women, because many American men are more afraid of losing sexual access than losing their country, because as more and more of these beta males go out here and wreak this kind of havoc, the whole stability of the country becomes more unstable because the kind of violence they participate in gets so heinous to the point where you cannot maintain law, you cannot maintain order, and this is why America has to acknowledge the man crisis in this country and deal with the way we parent children, because if we don't deal with the way we parent children, those children are going to grow up to become children of the corn, and as they grow up like wild stalks like this, they grow up and eventually become men in crisis, and these men in crisis make chaos in the country. And one of these individuals again said he enjoyed making chaos, and if we want to restore order in our country, we've got to acknowledge this man crisis, because the only way we can stop the chaos of 100 million beta males is if we actively go out here and stand up and do something about the man crisis here in America. Now, if you want to learn more about what leads to beta males becoming dysfunctional like this and participating in violent behavior like this, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it at other online booksellers in paperback and digital format, like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you want to learn how we get beta males like this, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, and learn why we wind up with mothers who raise sons who become men in crisis. Again, that book, The Woman Crisis, can also be found at other online booksellers like Amazon.com, Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play in paperback and digital format. And if you want to see me make more videos about men and women in crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available for the first time on Google Play, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are falling apart in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy on Google Play today.